I'm Lisa Capalla. Welcome to Where's Wilmington. Today's show is going to be about inspiration and a can-do attitude. And who better to have with me for that than famous Dick Hoyt.
Hey.
So glad you're here.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Now, if you folks don't know Dick, and you live under a rock probably if you don't, he and his son Rick are famous for, well, would you call it running in marathons?
Running, triathlons.
Yeah, triathlons. Over 1,000
Biking.
races you've
over
competed,
1,000.
right? So what's so unique about you and your son running these races? Let's tell the folks.
Well, I do it with my son. My son Rick, when he was born, they said, put him away, put him in an institution, he's going to be nothing but a vegetable for the rest of his life, you know, and he's 49 years old now, and we still haven't figured out what kind of vegetable he is, you know. But anyway, he's 49 years old. He can't talk. He can't use his arms and his legs.
Right.
But he's very smart. He's graduated from public high school. He's graduated from Boston University. He lives all by himself in his own apartment. And Rick and I have competed in over 1,000 athletic events, getting ready for our 29th Boston Marathon here in April.
Wonderful. And he's also written a book for children,
Right.
which is here in front of us. And then this one is your recent book, Devoted.
Right.
Yes,
Devoted.
which is what you are, really. What made you decide to start running races with your son who has cerebral palsy?
Well, it wasn't me, it was him. You got to blame him for this. He was attending a school out in Westfield, Massachusetts, and his gym teacher got him involved in all the gym activities with all the other children, and he was also the basketball coach at Westfield State College, and he used to take Rick to the games, and at one of the games they made an announcement that one of the lacrosse players from the college was paralyzed from the waist down, and they're going to have a charity road race to help him raise some money so he could pay his medical bills. And Rick came home from that game. Rick communicates with a computer, with a laptop, and it has a voice sensitizer. And he told me all about the story. He said, Dad, I have to do something for him. I want to let him know that life goes on even though he's paralyzed.
Wow.
I want to run in the race. Well, you know, at the time, I was 40 years old, not a runner. I used to run maybe 3 times a week, a mile each time, just to try to keep my weight down.
Right.
And that's all we had was a Mulholland wheelchair, which was prescription form fitted to Rick's body. And we had a hard time pushing him in it, and never mind running in it.
Right.
But we went down to the race. It was a 5-mile race. And the gun went off, and Rick and I took off with all the other runners. Well, everybody thought that we would just, you know, go around, turn around the corner and come back. Well, we didn't. We finished the whole 5 miles.
Wow.
Come in next to last, but not last.
Right, right. That's a good thing. Now, you're a lieutenant colonel, correct, previously in your
Retired.
former life, right?
Right.
So you knew a lot about planning.
Right.
So how do you go about making special plans for your son so that you can do Ironman events? That's, you know, you've got swimming and biking. How did you come up with a plan to make all that work?
Well, you know, our message is, yes, you can. There's no such word as can't, because when we first started, nobody wanted us in it, you know.
Right.
And then we tried to, well, Dave McGilfrey, he runs a sports enterprise. He's from Andover up here, and he's also the director of the Boston Marathon, approached Rick and I after the Falmouth Road Race and said, Dick, you look like a good triathlete. You have to do triathlons. Well, I looked at Dave and I said, only if I didn't do it with Rick. Well, Dave looked at me as if I was crazy.
Right.
And he turned around and he walked away. So a whole year went by, we're down doing Falmouth Road Race again, and Dave come up and approached me again. Dick, you're in better shape now, you have to do triathlons. Well, I gave him the same answer, only if I didn't do it with Rick. He said, okay, Dick, why don't you see what type of equipment that you can get built so you and Rick can compete together.
Right.
And at the time, I did not know how to swim. I hadn't
Wow.
been on a bike since I was 6 years old. And here we are planning on doing our first triathlon in 9 months.
Wow.
So I was in the process of changing jobs, and it meant I had to buy a new house. And I said, well, if we're going to do triathlons, I don't know how to swim, I'm going to buy a house on a lake. And that's what I did. I bought a house in Holland, Massachusetts on Hamilton Reservoir.
Excellent.
And I'll never forget, I went down that first day and jumped in the lake. I thought I was going to drown. I couldn't swim 15 feet.
Well, luckily for us and for Rick, you didn't, which is a good thing.
Right.
What was the climate like, or the acceptance level for you when you began doing these races, and how has that changed?
Well, when we first started running, nobody wanted us. We went to races and nobody come near us, nobody had talked to us, and nobody wanted us in the race.
Right.
But we finally talked to the race directors, and they let us run, you know. And so after that, Rick and I would just continue, go to different towns and different cities every weekend and run. And finally people started coming up to us and talking to us, and they could see that Rick had a personality and a sense of humor, and he loved to be in the middle of running with everybody else.
Wow.
You know?
So now do you think you have made it easier, you two as a team, for other folks who may be disabled and want to attempt what you're attempting?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Because now you see disabled people all over the world getting involved in what we're doing. There's 8 chapters in the United States now where they have families that are coming in and they're running. Matter of fact, we're doing a little race, 5K race out in Holland where we live, and there's 60 people come up from Virginia Beach, and they said Team Hoyt, Virginia Beach. You know, and it's growing, and it's not just in the United States, it's worldwide.
That's great.
You know?
So that gives hope for everybody, really. It's encouraging for everybody.
Yeah.
What made you decide to write this book?
Well, you know, when I retired, I supposedly I retired 15 years ago.
Right.
You know, people kept coming up to me and said, Dick, you know, you got to write your story. You got a great story there. You got to write a book. So we actually wrote, the first book was called It's Only a Mountain. This is our second book out, you know, and it took me about like 10 years because I self-published it and I did everything, you know, myself. But I'm not a good writer, so once I wrote it in chapters and everything else, I gave it to a professional writer. And so that's how it got
Polished it up
a little bit.
And what about Rick? What made him decide to write a children's book, which is really a great thing because I'm sure disabled children need someone to look up to as a role model, so he must be excellent in that capacity.
He really is, yes, because there's a lot of people out there. You know, when Rick was born, I never seen anybody in a wheelchair, and I never heard the word cerebral palsy before. And there's still a lot of children out there and grown-ups that don't realize people have cerebral palsy and what cerebral palsy is, you know. And matter of fact, there's these great big billboards all through the United States, and there's a lot of kids are getting edited. It's a picture of Rick and I, and it says Dad's been behind him for 64 marathons.
Amazing.
And it's huge. There's one in New York City, it's 30 by 40 feet.
Wow.
And these kids look at it and say, wow, what's that? What's that all about? So the kids are going to school and they're asking the teacher, and they're coming home at night and asking their mother and father, you know, what's this all about? So now Rick got this book out, and it talks about him, you know, growing up in a family with being physically challenged.
Right.
And so this is a book for school children, you know, for children, and now he's in the process of writing a book as far back as he can remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'll be really fascinating.
That will really be when
That'll
he
be
gets it
fascinating.
done.
So as someone who was in the military, you were obviously already a dedicated man, but I know you have other children as well. You have Rob and Russell too.
Right.
How did you teach them to be open to the idea of your other son's illness? Sometimes in families that creates a different dynamic, and I'm interested to see how you really made that work.
Yeah, well, you know, Rick being the first one, and then when Rob came along, the middle one, it was hard on Rick because, you know, Rob's all of a sudden he's starting to crawl, get up and all that, and there's Rick knowing, but it's just motor-wise, his body's not working, but mentally he's
That's got to be frustrating.
Well, it was also on Rob because we had to spend more attention with Rick than we did with Rob, but Rob didn't need that attention, and there were times where Rob said, Dad, I wish that was Rick, and I said, Rob, think about that.
Wow.
Think about, you know, you're up here walking, you're talking to me, he's laying on the floor, you can't talk to me, he can't do anything, you know, and now he understands it as he got older.
Right.
But then we had Russell, and so it was a lot easier for Rob because Russell was there and they could do things together.
Someone to identify with.
Yeah, but what we did is we included Rick in everything we did. You know how you're going down the store and we have to get a gallon of milk?
Sure.
Well, we took the time to put Rick in his chair and all that to do it. We went camping trips and stuff like that, and we were all included. They built, you know, they went out in the woods and they'd dig holes and they'd bury Rick in there with leaves and stuff all over them.
Awesome.
And tree huts, and we'd go camping. They'd pick him up and they'd throw him in the pool, and you see all these people camping around the pool, and here's Rick going down the bottom, and he's looking up and laughing at you, and then the two boys, you know, would jump in and pick him up and get him out of there.
That's amazing, and we're talking about the 70s or so, where the attitude was very different than it is now.
Yes.
So I guess you didn't know any other way. You had already decided you were going to treat him like everybody else, and you just continued along in that path.
That's right.
What do you think your story, you and Rick's story, teaches other people? What would you like the message to be for other people?
Well, you know, our message is yes, you can. There isn't anything you can't do as long as you make up your mind you want to do it. And there's no such word as no. Because that's all we've heard for 49 years with Rick is no, you can't compete, you can't do this, he can't go to school. Well, we changed all those can'ts and no's into yes, you can.
Right.
And that's our message to
You
everybody.
had to have days, though, that were troubling or frustrating along the way.
This still is.
Yeah.
It's amazing what we had to go through with Rick. And it's a lot easier now for other families that have physically challenged children than it was now.
And that's got to make you feel good.
Oh, it definitely makes you feel good. Yes.
So how will you know, Dick, when it's time to stop?
Stop.
Yes.
What's that?
The running, the racing, all of it. How will you know when it's time to put that away? Or will you? Will you just keep going till the end of time?
Well, we don't know. You know, we're not ready to give up yet. Right now, I have a torn meniscus, and they just had to take it out, and I just tore my hamstring like 7 days ago.
And you also had a heart attack.
Well, that was
too, right?
way back in
2003.
Yeah.
So you're doing great. Good for you.
Yeah, still ticking.
Do you think that what you're doing with your son really truly motivates your life to continue, that it gives you purpose as well? It's good for both of you. It gives him something, but you get something out of it too?
Definitely do, yeah. I mean, I'm in the best shape of my life, you know. People don't think I'm 70 years old, you know.
Right.
Yeah, because they say, oh, I think you're 50, 55. I give them a big hug and a kiss.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's got to be all the running and the swimming and the racing and all of that. Of all the courses you've been on, any that are your particular favorites or ones that you feel like you really made a milestone and went forward?
Well, I think almost all of them we made a milestone, but I think the big one was when we did the World Championship Ironman Triathlon.
You tell us about that.
Well, it's 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 miles biking, then a full marathon, 26.2 miles.
Oh my gosh, I can't even do that myself, never mind pushing a wheelchair.
And see, Rick is the first disabled person in the world to ever compete and complete that Ironman Triathlon.
Wow.
And because of his efforts, now they have a physically challenged division out there. That's huge.
That is
And
huge.
you know, 2 years ago was the 30th anniversary of that Ironman Triathlon, and up until that point, there'd only been 25 people in the world inducted into the Hall of Fame, where Rick became 26 and I became 27.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. You sleep good at night then? Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, I know you do other things. You do some public speaking. You're an author now. What other things are you doing during the year when you're not running the races, or are you always training for the next one?
Well, it's tough, you know, because we are motivational speakers, and Rick does some speeches with me, and I do some alone, and he does some on his own too. But we're doing a lot of traveling and flying, so I don't get the chance to really train the way we should be training. So we're not doing the full Ironman triathlons. We can still get out a half Ironman triathlon, but not the full ones.
Right.
You know, you really have to spend a lot of time training. But you know, we're inspiring and motivating so many people, and the country, all the other countries. It's just amazing. You know, we've had emails from a young lady that was ready to commit suicide, and we have some DVD. We got 3 DVDs out, and she saw one of our DVDs, and now she's out running and doing triathlons.
Wow.
We've had drug addicts and drunks that are now clean and stuff because they've seen our story.
Right.
So it's amazing. We got an email from Switzerland last year, and they had a soccer team over there, and they weren't very good, and they used one of our DVDs. They won the championship this year. So they wanted to send a private jet over to pick us up so we could go to the awards banquet. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go.
That's too bad. I would have definitely made that trip.
Yeah.
So you're providing hope, really, as well. Not only inspiration, but hope for people that they see that you've done it, and they see that they can do it as well.
And it's not just only for physically challenged people, you know. It's for, we get these presidents of these large companies and stuff. Now they're out there and doing triathlons and Ironman triathlons. And there's more people that are doing triathlons. Right. And even like the board of directors for the Boston Marathon said, we want to thank you for what you've done for the Boston Marathon. But when we first tried to get in there, they didn't want us.
Right.
You know?
That's kind of interesting because, you know, now when I see you on television, I see you every year, and it's sort of like the staple. Oh, there's that guy, Mr. Kelly. Oh, okay. And here's the Hoyts. You know, it's like you're a staple now. So you've really brought the disability out of the closet and probably made people much more comfortable than they would have been otherwise if they hadn't seen that. And I think that's a great thing. And I'm sure the doctors at the time Rick was born were probably well-meaning with what they thought. But you may have changed their opinions as well, you know, the medical community and everybody else. That's a big, big cross to bear on your shoulders.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
What's next? I don't know.
Do you have any marathons coming up that we can watch for? You're going to do the Boston Marathon.
This Boston Marathon
right? That's going to be great.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
And you're going to be somewhere else in September.
Yeah, I'm
Right here.
Up here, right.
You'll
yeah.
be at the race for us in
Yeah,
September.
they have a half marathon, a
Yes.
Chamber of Commerce, and a
That'd be
5K, and
great.
we've committed ourselves to come up and do it. Because I just grew up in North Reading, which is
Right.
2 miles
Hop,
away
skip,
from
and a
here.
jump from here.
My first
Excellent.
house is 3 miles from here.
Marvelous.
It's unbelievable.
So you're a New
it's-
Englander,
it's-
that's great.
Oh, yeah. yeah.
Anything you'd like folks to know before we close this section of the program today? And I'd like to thank you personally for not only being here today, because I know you're a very busy man, but for also what you and your son have done for disabled people all over the world, really.
Well, I'd like to say, hello to everybody. The Hoyt family has grown up. We've been in this area, North Reading area, for over 100 years, and I graduated from North Reading High School and stuff. So there's a lot of classmates and stuff that maybe listen to this, and I'd like to say hello to them because
Okay.
we just had a, I don't know, 50th or 25th anniversary.
Right, reunion.
And unfortunately I wasn't able to go, so I wasn't able to see them. But I'd really like to say
We got to
hello
get you some
to
free time in
all
there
those
somehow,
people.
right? That's amazing. And the books we can get by going onto your website?
Yeah, the best thing is just teamhoyt.com.
Okay.
And it is a great website, and if they go there, there's a picture of Rick and I standing in, and there's a little arrow, and you press that arrow, and I think you'll get to see something.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time,
you.
Dick Hoyt, and for
Thank
what
you.
you're doing. Please give Rick a hug and kiss for me when
I'll
you see
do
him.
that. Yeah,
All
he'd
right.
rather have it direct from you, though.
Well, you know what? You bring him in. I'd be more than happy to provide that. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time. We'll be right back with more of Where's Wilmington right after this. Stay right there.
How do you convince a 14-year-old girl that hair doesn't matter? When the diagnosis is childhood cancer, where can parents turn? CureSearch.org can help. It's run by doctors and scientists whose research has led to an overall cure rate of 78%. You're not as alone as you feel.
Hi, I'm Lisa Capallo. Welcome back to the second half of Where's Wilmington. Today we're talking about special families, inspirational families. I know if you saw the first half, you saw me talking to Dick Hoyt about his son Rick and bringing him to the Boston Marathon and many other marathons. Well, now we're going to shift our focus to an author family here. We have next to me Carol D., who is grandmother to Brianna and Brian Dussault. You guys are in Wilmington school system, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're twins, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And what grade are you in?
Sixth.
Sixth. Excellent. What school would that be in Wilmington?
Wilmington Middle School.
Wilmington Middle School. Excellent. Do you both have the same teacher?
No.
No.
Two different teachers.
Yeah.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk to Carol a little bit, your grandmother, about how Margret and the Bully, the book that you folks wrote together, came to be, and then we'll talk to you guys a little bit about the writing process.
Well, it started about 2 years ago, and I had my grandchildren, my other two grandchildren, and we were discussing bullyism. It had just probably started as an issue.
Right.
And as we were discussing it, I was amazed at their reaction to my questions. They weren't afraid, they were excited to talk about it, and I was so surprised because when I was their age, I was bullied.
Right.
And I kept it inside. I was afraid to tell anyone. I grew up in a generation of children were seen and not heard.
Right.
So I said, with them talking so much about it, maybe it would be good if I put what I was writing aside and focused on a family writing together and working together as a team to try to make a mark in life and maybe help stop some of these serious problems at a young age where children are willing
Right.
to talk with you.
Right. And I mean, I think everybody's been bullied to some degree in their life at some point, whether it's in high school, junior high, middle school. I mean, everybody's different, and I think, we do have somewhat of a predatory society, so hopefully what you wrote will help. I have to tell you, I loved the book. I read it myself, and actually it made me cry, which isn't really that hard to do, but it did. It was very touching. I think the story is very well written, and part of your selling point, if you will, for the book is that it's a book for children by children. Really. So it's kind of written in language that both adults and children can understand.
And their characters, that was the fun part. I mean, we sat at the table, and I'm a grandmother, and these are young children and a young generation, so I says, well, what does the bully look like?
Right.
And they had no problem at all drawing that bully. And what does the nerd look like? And of course, I have to say, I added the beanie on his head, as
Right.
my generation. But I wanted him to stand out. We wanted him to stand out because usually the child that works hard and studies hard is sometimes in today's society not cool.
Right, ostracized for their intelligence. Yeah.
And he was so cool in the end, and he was such a hero.
We don't want to give away
Yeah.
too much of the
No,
story.
we won't.
Where can folks purchase the book, by the way, if they're interested in getting it? And I know it's available all over the country.
It's available all over the country. We give special pricing for schools, and you can go to www.caroldbooks.com. Locally, you can go to Jenna's Consignment Store in on Middlesex Street, and you can purchase it there, and you can purchase it at Amazon and Barnes & Noble online.
So pretty much anywhere.
Yes.
Okay. Brianna, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel seeing the work that you and your grandmother did around a kitchen table with all your other cousins? How do you feel knowing that it's out in public where all your friends will see it?
It feels actually pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Have any of your friends read the book?
I don't know if they've read it. They might have, because my mom's friends with them, but they've definitely seen it before.
Cool. That must be cool. How about you, Brian? How do you feel about being an established author at such a young age?
Happy.
And have any of your friends seen or read the book?
Probably not.
Probably not. Well, we'll have to change that as soon as this show comes on. Carol, I also know that your daughter Jennifer Dussault actually did the illustrations for the book too.
Yes, what she did was the children drew the pictures, and of course their cousins from Middleton are at the time were 7 and 6. So we had some characters that really weren't proportioned quite right.
Right.
So Jen didn't want to really take away from their ideas, so she kind of put it into some form of perspective and left a little bit of their work untouched. And then the publisher did the same thing, Wheatmark, which was wonderful. And it was great. Jennifer really worked hard to keep their ideas in perspective.
Excellent. Now, Jennifer and Brian, your mom, Jennifer, said that, Brianna and Brian, your mom, Jennifer, said that you gave up a lot of your free time to work on this book. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the things that you sacrificed to write the book, Brianna?
It was kind of like Friday nights, or like days kind of early when we could have like had friends over, but we decided to do the book instead.
Excellent. Do you think it was a good idea that you did that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Brian? Did you have to give up anything special to help write the book?
Yeah.
And what did you give up?
Friends and video games.
Video games. Oh, wow. That is a big sacrifice.
That's a big sacrifice.
How long did it take from when you got the idea, Carol, to actually getting it into print?
Well, probably almost 2 years.
Wow.
It came out in September, and the object really was to get this book to children before middle school.
Right.
Because if you can reach children before middle school, they actually communicate with you a little better. Once they get into middle school, and I love them dearly, we're into the new short answers. Nope, yes, maybe.
Right.
But
that's if you can even get them to spend any time with you.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it was so nice because I got them that day when we started talking about it. I got them at such an age where they were coming to me, and this bully problem, I mean, they were getting angry over the bully.
Right.
And they were getting angry that 1 or 2 children in a school or in a classroom can really disrupt everyone. You know, there's a team in a classroom, there's an aura in a classroom, and when you have problems like that, it just doesn't affect 1 or 2 children, it affects everyone.
Right, and if you folks get a chance to read the book talks about that. It's a short book, but you actually cram a lot of ideological ideas in there. You get a lot accomplished in a short amount of pages, I have to say. But one of the things the book talks about is that when all of the other kids kind of come forward, you find out that maybe they all have a little bit more to share.
Absolutely.
And I think the thing about being bullied is that you do feel alone. You do feel like you're the only one. And I can remember being in high school and feeling like, is this ever going to end? Am I ever going to get out into society and be away from this kind of problem? So I think everybody can relate to that feeling.
Absolutely. I mean, not only does the victim, and the victim I know because I was one, I mean, you go to bed at night and you're sick to your stomach and you don't want to get on the school bus and you don't want to go to school and you don't know where to turn to. And it's a horrible feeling. But on the other side, the bully needs just as much help. I mean,
Let's face it, bullying is a learned behavior.
Absolutely.
You're not born wanting to be cruel to people.
No, you're not.
So it's a learned behavior, and that means either it's been seen somewhere or has been experienced by the child, and they're usually acting out, you know.
And in this book, we're trying to help the bully. That's something that has to be noted. And when they're small, young children, before middle school, these things can be helped before they deep root, and we have serious scenes in high school and in college.
And we've seen the effects of some of these things with Columbine and the other things,
absolutely,
tragedies that happened. You do wonder if people were to catch these kids at a young enough age and really get them to open up, maybe we wouldn't have had some of the problems that we've had.
Absolutely, that's what I've discussed with my grandchildren. You know, a grandmother can't stand the thought of anybody hurting her grandchildren.
Right.
And I think this is a great book for grandmothers to read and grandfathers to read to the children.
Right, because although the world is a little bit of a different place, the feelings and the emotions are the same.
Absolutely.
You know, have you guys seen any bullying in school or seen anything in school that made you want to step up and protect some other kids? Brian, did you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I used to be a car rider, so I went at the car rider door. It wasn't me who got bullied, but there was these two special needs kids. One was nice and one was kind of mean. And so the mean one started strangling the nice one, and he started choking him. And then I told him to stop.
So you were acting as the hero. You jumped right into the middle of that.
Yeah, and then Devin, the mean person, threw his hat out on the street, and I got it from him.
Excellent. I'm glad you did that. That was the right thing to do. How about you, Brianna? I mean, everybody knows there can be mean girls in school. Have you seen anything happen or been a part of anything and maybe helped out in a situation or wished you had?
Well, I've definitely heard of bullying, but it's not like hitting. It's kind of like, since we're like the younger kids in the school.
Right.
There's like 8th graders and they're like a lot taller than us, so they might be like, hey shorty, or something like that.
Right. Or, you know, even girls when they're in groups sometimes, we know, can be a little bit difficult.
Yes.
But I'm glad it sounds like you haven't had to experience that firsthand. So as we're getting ready to close the program, is there anything, Brian or Brianna, you'd like to say to our viewers before we talk to your grandmom and close the program today?
No, not really.
Okay, how about you, Brianna? Anything you'd like them to know?
Yeah. Well, I think we should stop bullying, and people should learn that it's not right, and they should think about how bad they would feel if it happened to them.
Exactly. That is an excellent point. And that's why probably your grandmother wanted to write this book, so that maybe we can stop this problem once and for all. And Carol, what would you like folks to know, or if anybody out there is thinking about neither purchasing the book or writing something themselves, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say the most important thing is to communicate with your children. We used to play a game every night, and it was very simple. What's the best thing that happened to you, and what's the worst thing that happened to you? And if you do this with your children, you'll be surprised at what you'd learn. And that's my main thing. And the new book is coming out, The Bully Returns, or Does He?
Interesting.
And that'll be out.
The saga.
So there is a saga.
Part 2. So get the first one, and then we can get a look at the second one. Did you guys help with the second one also?
We haven't really started working on it yet, but we kind of have thoughts of what it would be.
Excellent.
Yes, they have.
Well, that's wonderful to see a whole family like that work together to stop a social problem. I really appreciate that, and you're very inspiring, and I'm sure you will be to a lot of our viewers too. So I guess the message would be to just get involved and, you know, try to make a difference where you can.
Absolutely.
Excellent. I want to thank you for watching Where's Wilmington today. We're thanking Carol D. and Brianna and Brian Dussault, and also their mom Jennifer, who helped work on this book and who spent some time today with us. And this show has been about inspiration. You know, Dick Hoyt was on earlier talking about his son, how anything is possible. Now we have the Dussaults and the D's talking to us about how you can make a better world. So I hope you were inspired by today's show. Continue watching. We'll be bringing more programs like this to you as much as we can. And just want to remind you that you're watching Where's Wilmington? So the next time somebody says to you, Where's Wilmington? You tell them right here and right here on WCTV. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.